Hi, let's talk about what we learned today. My name's Chris Ballinger. I'm here with my wife, Jessica Ballinger, who is also a host of this show. She's not like a guest and I'm in charge or anything like that. It's just, we do this together.
So you're kind of in charge today because you picked out all the questions.
I did.
You organized everything. So
I did a little work.
Thank you.
Which is good. Today we're talking about relationships. We're going to be answering a bunch of questions that people had for us because we've had a long relationship. We've had a lot of kids. And so people asked us questions about that on Twitter. We're going to answer a bunch of questions. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we learned this week.
Oh, yes.
So I learned what it's like to take a week off. I actually really do like working. And so I was kind of like, oh, a week off. I don't know. I'm excited about editing again and like getting back into vlogging and everything. But it's been really nice.
Yeah.
It's been really nice just kind of taking some time. We've played a lot of games and spent a lot of time just talking. And I've liked it.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Yeah, it's been a nice week. We also did a little photo shoot, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have our new bunny, and we wanted to have a little, a memory of the first week our bunny was in our life, because we actually had done the exact same thing with Alice. And it's one thing that we always look back to is that like really special photo shoot with Alice. So we wanted to make sure that the kids all had photos with our new pet. So we did that.
Yeah, it coincide with Luke's birthday is coming up.
Yeah. And then we also took a couple pictures for the podcast. So
if you're seeing some new profile pictures and such, thumbnails, that's what that came to doing. Did that.
But that went well, like as well as it can. Photo shoots, like family photo shoots they're a lot of work.
They're very challenging.
They're just like, they take a lot of energy and they feel very vulnerable because you're like there with all your kids, like in front of a photographer. And luckily our photographer is like one of my best friends.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's so good
wonderful
at taking the photos and being patient with us and like being understanding.
And just being and loving on our kids, not like getting frustrated or like, I don't know, like snappy. Like she's loving, like as she's taking the photo. So it's really good, but it's also just like draining. Like for me, even picking out clothes is draining.
Yeah.
Like I start it tired because I don't usually plan enough in advance as far as like outfits. And that wears me out. Like that takes me way longer than I ever think it's going to. Like it takes me a couple hours to pick out outfits for all of us. And it is not my forte. And I always feel like really, I guess, like I said, vulnerable about it, like insecure and vulnerable because I don't feel like I'm very good at matching clothes.
You feel like there's a lot of pressure because like that's the beginning of the whole thing. Like that sets the tone for the whole thing.
All of it. And then like one person won't have any pants. I'm like, oh.
It's usually me.
Sometimes. Or like then as like.
Your pants don't go with this theme at all.
No. Or you're like, your pants that do go with the theme will like
not go with my shirt.
I don't know.
It's like a whole domino effect.
It's a domino effect. And we're in the time of COVID. So it's not like, okay, we'll run out to Target and get some jeans sort of thing. Like I haven't wanted to do that. I wanted to use what we have, all of that. Anyway, it's a lot of pressure. And then also like as a female, my friend Katie taught me that, the best way to plan clothes is to pick the mom's outfit first. So that's like something I will give to you guys because she says like pick the mom, make the mom feel good. And then like everybody kind of go out from there. But at the same time, you know, for me, a lot of times I'm postpartum or whatever, and my clothes are fitting funny or I don't like love the way that they're fitting just because my body is kind of always changing. Like as somebody who's having kids somewhat frequently, I feel like I go from, you know, normal to pregnant to like 3 different stages of pregnant to then like less pregnant or not pregnant. And then your body changes from there. And I don't know, it's like it's a very weird time in a woman's life. And I feel like I'm always kind of going through that cycle, and planning photos like really makes you face that. And I'm not saying that like my body's wrong in any way, because I think like a female body is, like does so many amazing things, and it's like really wonderful. But it's also like weird because your clothes are just like You can't just rely on a favorite outfit. I feel like we could honestly do a full podcast on family photos.
Do you guys want that? Is that a thing?
Yeah. I don't know if anybody wants that, but I feel like we could do it for sure.
Also this week, Eddie Van Halen died. He was just super important to music, and it was like that was heavy for me when I found that out as well.
I didn't realize that was hitting you that hard because I don't know. I don't know him that well.
You just know him from the Nerf Herder song?
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Nerf Herder is a band that we were big fans of back when we were in high school. They were a local band, and we would like go to their concerts and stuff. And their big hit was called Van Halen.
We were like, no, well, a lot of people would actually know them from Buffy the Vampire Slayer because they do the theme song of Buffy. But we were like fans. Like we followed them, and like they knew us, and they would let us in for free to shows.
They let you in for free?
You too.
Oh,
we would be on the list. I'd be like, hey, put me on the list. And they probably couldn't stand me. That's my.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. Like, they were really like, why are these kids asking to be on the list again? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I did like video work for one of them.
Well, that's good.
Because I feel,
for
all of them.
Awkward about
it was for the band.
Like, I wonder.
It was that was like a really fun time. Like to me, like that's memories of like childhood. Is we could go off and talk about like little Chris and Jessica going to like punk rock concerts because we definitely did that in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, it feels like a different lifetime for sure.
It does. Yeah. It does. But we definitely did that. And
it was a big deal because we were like young and didn't know how to go to different places, but somehow we would end up like in San Diego.
Yeah.
We'd be like, we went to San Diego.
Deep in Los Angeles somewhere.
It was like a huge kind of growing up point for us, I think.
We would go places like the Glass House was like the name of one of the places.
Yeah. The Troubadour?
The Troubadour, yeah. Well, that's a real place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely saw them play there. And the House of Blues.
And I think Perry Grip, who is the lead singer, who was the one I would like ask for free tickets from, I think he's pretty famous in his own way, like for ringtones now. Like,
yeah. He has a big YouTube channel now,
I think.
Too. Or at least he did a few years ago.
He's done some really fun, catchy things.
Like if you've seen like a hamster eating things, that's his song.
And there's something about like a cat on a pig on a mouse or something.
Yeah,
I think there's like some
I'm sure
stacking
there is.
Animals song or something. Yeah, I love Perry Grip. I mean, we haven't seen him for like 17 years or something.
No,
but
yeah.
That was a time.
We used to play kickball with them.
We played kickball with Dave, the drummer. Yeah. So like we were fans, you guys.
And then we also we made them a pumpkin once.
We did. Halloween. We made a really cool like.
Wow, we're going down memory lane pumpkin. Here.
I don't know how we ended up on this. Van Halen.
So that song was about Van Halen.
Van Halen.
You don't know the tune of that song, do you?
It's been a while. Do it. You start.
No, I'm not going to sing the Van Halen song by Nerf Herder.
I'm mixing all of
Is this what you wanted?
Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, there we go.
Sammy
and now we've broken all the copyright rules.
Is this what you wanted?
No, we got to stop. We can't keep going.
We can do that here.
Can we do it?
I don't know. We're new to this whole podcast thing. Anyway, yeah, we like their music.
Yeah.
Not music we would let our kids listen to, though.
No, there were some songs.
Yeah.
We were rebellious youngsters.
Yes.
We would not let our kids listen to their music now. But it was fun. It was fun songs. And now
we were older than our kids' age, too.
That's true.
Time.
That's true.
Like,
we were able to drive places barely.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into these questions.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe it'll end up messy, but I also feel like this whole episode is just going to be one giant flex because, like, I really love you a whole lot.
Oh.
And I feel like we kind of have the perfect relationship, but maybe I'll find out something today. I don't know. But I feel like we're kind of perfect. Like,
I hope we don't find out something on this. Like, this is the thing that takes us down.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of the questions. So.
Yeah. So I've collected a bunch of questions from Twitter, and a lot of them are very nice, like what you just said.
Okay.
And I'm a little weepy right now. Like, I'm tearing up because of what you just said. So this is going to be a very mushy podcast. I hope you're ready for that. But before we get into it, let's check and see if we have any sponsors today. There were a lot of questions when I asked for them on Twitter.
Ooh.
So if we didn't get to a question that you're interested in, our hashtag is ltawwlt. That's ltawwlt is a good way to remember it. Miss Our Baller Fan, with 2 A's in the fan, says, how did you guys meet? How old were you? And when did you decide you wanted to start a family? I love you guys.
This is such a long answer.
It is a long... This is what I'm saying. We're not going to have enough time for like all the things. This is sort of an intro to our relationship. So we can kind of do like a quick sort of recap.
We were both 16 years old.
Yes.
Freshly 16.
Yes.
And we had crushes on each other from afar.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't in each other's social circles. We were in high school together.
Yeah, we went to the same school.
But we like didn't have classes together. Nothing about like our friends circle really overlapped. And I just remember being like, I remember looking at him in the yearbook while I was on the phone with my friend Kelly. And I was like, I have a crush on that guy. And like pointing you out from the yearbook.
What year was that?
Well, I mean, it must have been...
Like which yearbook picture?
I
need to look that up.
I don't know because I don't know if it was the end of the year when we started dating, but it must have been before that. So it must have been, I'm guessing it's our sophomore year. The year before?
Sophomore year?
Because we started dating,
No, we started dating after the summer. Year. Yeah.
So it would have been freshman year. So
what was that picture?
I had a crush on you like from the halls, but I just remember pointing out, I like figuring out your name because like we didn't know each other at all. And I remember Kelly was like, oh my gosh, that was the guy who was Elvis in junior high. Because that was how Christopher was like known, because nobody really knew him, but they knew that he showed up randomly and like performed the heck out of Elvis. I
was a very quiet guy that ate lunch in a classroom. So like to give you an idea, like I had 3 best friends and that was it. And I didn't really talk to anybody else. And I was into Elvis, like just in general. And I liked imitating people. And so there was this 50s day in junior high. It's like the last day of junior high.
Which means also, just so you guys know, like we went to junior high together.
Yeah.
We just didn't know each other.
And so I was like, I went up to the teacher and I was like, can I be Elvis? And he was like, you? Like, he was like, I mean, if no one else wants to do it, I guess so.
For like an end of the year performance.
For the end of the year performance, everyone lip synced to 50s music.
He was Elvis.
And I came out as Elvis, and it was like a big deal in the school.
It was. Everybody was like, that guy who was Elvis, like, where did that come from?
No,
like everybody was talking about him.
Elvis in particular, like.
Oh, it was a big role to get.
Yeah. So the teacher like pulled me aside. He's like, listen, you've got to really sell this thing because I think he was nervous because traditionally the Elvis moment is this like big moment in the thing. And I was this shy, quiet kid who didn't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I was Elvis.
Yeah, he really pulled it off.
And people then down the halls didn't know my name, but they said, hey, Elvis, all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was I guess that was the start of something. I don't know. I have
to pull out my old junior high yearbook because I feel like Kelly even might have talked about you in my junior high yearbook. I think she had a crush on you in junior high.
But did?
I could be wrong. I don't know. I have to look it up. I mean, I know she probably did from knowing her in person.
Okay.
Kelly.
So anyway, we really met. So we really met when we were 16.
We're nowhere near the beginning of the story.
No.
So basically, I decided that I had a crush on him, and I told my friends, and they knew. And I had a big friendship circle. I had like theater people, kind of like independent fringe, funny people.
And the funny thing is, like at the same time, I feel like we were passing each other in the halls.
Yeah,
and we just kind of like kind of not even nod or anything. Just, it was just sort of like
Awkward.
eye contact, awkwardness. And I didn't tell anyone because I only had a small group of friends that I told nothing to.
Okay.
And then, but in my head, I was like, I'm very interested in learning more about this girl. She's like super cool. And then I saw you in a play.
Yes.
And you were in The Music Man.
I was in The Music Man chorus.
And it was the first play that I had seen at the school. I didn't like go to theater productions. Yeah. It was like a weird thing for me to even go to it. And I was just like, oh, there's that girl. She's great.
And funnily enough, I believe right before that, I saw you in an improv show at the school.
Yes.
So like we both saw each other on stage and we both like, I guess he didn't say it to anybody else, but I was sitting next to somebody and I went, oh, and like my friends like made fun of me for that because I was so excited when I saw you come on stage. And I was like, that's the guy I've got a crush on. And I like told all my friends.
Did I do okay in the improv show?
Was great. You're amazing at improv.
Oh, that's good.
And so after that, because my friends knew that I had a crush on him, one of them had PE with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets awkward. This is where the story gets weird. Sorry. A little uncomfortable for half a second here.
Get some baggage out here.
I started dating a friend of mine for a week. And one of my friends said, hey, it's too bad that Jessica is dating so-and-so now because she actually had a big crush on you. And like, that's
to
too
me
bad.
in PE.
To Christopher in PE. And that same day, we actually broke up.
Also called like gym. It's physical education.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. California calls it PE.
It's called different things in different places in the world. So anyway, the friend had told him that I had a crush on him, but actually I was also breaking up, like that other guy and I broke up. Like we were just friends. Okay. We were friends, but we were like, hey, maybe we'll like be not friends or, more than friends. But anyway, so the friend told Christopher.
And then like a few days later, he was like, oh, she broke up with that guy.
I don't think he told you.
No, he definitely told me. And he was like, and.
No, because you asked for my number without knowing that we broke up. That's what you told me.
Oh, is that what happened?
Okay, so the friend that had talked to Christopher about the fact that I had a crush on him said, you've got to come to this end of the school party. That girl's going to be there, and like you should come to this party. And Christopher is a guy who had never been to a party in his life, I don't think. Aside from like a birthday party.
I did improv and Elvis, and that's it.
Right.
That's all the socializing I've done.
And never had a girlfriend, had never been on a date. What else can I tell them about you? I had never asked somebody for their phone number.
No.
Had never talked to a girl on the phone? Not related?
No, probably not.
So you went.
So he was like, you should come to this party, but I'm not going to tell you where the party is. You've got to get her number and find out where the party is. Did you guys scheme that together, or was that all him?
That was all him. Gosh,
wow, what a friend!
To, like, write a letter, like a thank you letter. Don't you think?
Sure, yeah. Every time we see him, we talk to him about it. He takes credit for all of our children.
He deserves it. Like that is wild. But he basically was like, "You're gonna need to go up and ask for her phone number."
Yeah, and I did,
which is such a gutsy thing to do. Like, that is wild.
I went up to her and I was like, hey, I heard there's this party. Are you going to it? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know where he lives. Can I get your number? And like, I'll call you and you can tell me the address and everything.
Yeah.
And that happened.
That he got my number, and you didn't know, as far as I know, that I had broken up with the friend.
I guess I didn't know.
That's what you've told me, but I don't know. But we had.
Yeah, because I remember being at the party going like, oh man, like she's like, it would be so cool to like get to know her more, but I don't want to ruin something.
This is the wildest, most rebellious Christopher Ballinger story I've ever heard in my life.
Anyway, so
my heart is going pitter-patter.
So we were 16. I think that was the answer to the question, is we were 16. And that's how we kind of met.
And then he went to the party.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yes, this is happening. And then he did magic for my friends all night long and never talked to me and left early because he had a curfew.
But I made an impression.
And then it was summer. And I was like, oh, guess that's not happening.
But then like the next day, Was it like the next day or was it a couple days later?
It was a few days later.
I gave her a call because I had her number. I asked her out on a date.
It was very exciting.
And we have been dating ever since. And when did you decide you wanted to start a family? That second phone call, probably.
No, we got serious really fast. To be honest,
and we were really open about it too. Like we were very much like the whole time going like, "Oh, do you want a big family? Yes," or like, "Do you want to have kids?"
We were like the emojis that have heart eyes.
Where would we get married? Like, I just feel like
How many kids should we have?
It was pretty early on.
Yes.
Head over heels.
He told me that he loved me. Our third date. I think the same day that he kissed me for the first time. Is that time out for you?
I guess so.
Yeah.
There it is. True love.
True love.
Sarah Trop 26.
Hey, Sarah.
How do you guys work through hard times / arguments?
He's very patient.
I feel like I'm very not fun to argue with.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not exciting to argue with me.
I feel like I'm going to listen and learn right now because I always feel like he's got a strategy because I will vent and I will be like, ah!
So here's my strategy. You want to hear my strategy?
I think you wait it out because I am very forgiving and by the next day I've forgotten everything.
Nope.
Like I just forget.
Nope. I've tried that. It didn't work. So here's the big thing is I listen.
Yeah.
And I try and go, I know I have an opinion on this and it's a strong opinion and I could start an argument right now, or I could go, what of this is my fault? Or I know that she's got my best interests in mind as well as her own. Like I know that she wants this to work out. What can I learn from this? How can I improve myself? And if I'm not getting it yet, I'm going to get it soon. Like I will learn how I can change. And I don't try and force you to change your mind.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, typically we both come to that, to like an agreement, or we both come to like realize that we're both looking out for each other. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, oh no.
I just also feel like you never come at me with any complaints because he's got like this strategy for how to problem solve, and I'm like, I think I just vent.
I know I have. We've gotten in some bigger arguments where we're like upset with each other.
I remember when we were in high school and dating.
Yeah.
It was like drama.
All the time. It was
like One Tree Hill, which is why I like One Tree Hill, because I feel like we never had any like very, very, very serious stuff happen, but I still feel like it was very drama. It was like very like so different than what it is now and what marriage has kind of been for us.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in general, we don't fight or argue. Like we're talking about how we do, but like we almost never do. And I feel like it's been years, I think.
Well, there's this impulse that comes up sometimes where it's like, I know I'm right. Like whenever that's the basis of an argument is that like, I know I'm right and they're wrong. And I've got to convince them that they're wrong for any argument. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned is that you're very smart. You're very caring. If there's something that's wrong to the point where you'll say something that makes me go like, well, I got to stand up for myself. I take a minute and I really assess like what is it that's upsetting her that is my fault? Because typically it's both sides. You know, typically there's something going on both sides. Both sides are right in their own way. Both sides are wrong in their own way. And for me to assess it and go like, what am I doing wrong here? It is really eye-opening. And I just feel like people don't do that often. They end up in these big fights and you're with somebody that you're like, how come you don't understand me? And it's because you're not taking the moment to like understand the other person. And I feel like you do the same thing for me. And I feel like when we do have a moment where that's like a little more tense, me giving myself the time to work it through also gives you the time to work it through, so it doesn't turn into like a shouting match. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like everybody should listen to this guy. Like, he's really amazing. I feel like he's been like throughout a relationship, like this glue that just holds us together, because he's like so wise and so patient and so loving. And I just feel so honored that I get to be your wife. Like, I think that's it. Like, I just think like I couldn't have done as well with anyone else. Like, I just think you're really amazing, and I really hope that people learn from you.
I think you're really amazing. Like, I completely am. This is turning into like a major mush fest. But like it's true. It's totally true. And I feel like that's like realizing that the other person has your best interests in heart and wants what's best for you is something that people forget. And when you remember that and you really work together, as long as you initially in the relationship, like assess properly that the person does actually want what's best for you and is not like abusive in some way, then you can grow together. And I think that that's really cool.
And I feel like, you kind of stole my answer with that. Like, that's something I would sorry. That's something that was like really huge for me personally. Like, I remember in high school, like later in our high school version of our relationship, having that moment where we were talking, I think in my car, like my old Volvo, and being like kind of shocked that was a thing, that like the idea that you wanted the best for me. And like, I don't feel like that's how I was raised with relationships. Like, and I'm talking about how I saw relationships in the media and how I had seen models of personal relationships. Like, I was always kind of taught that it was a competition, or you want, like, I was really shown that. And that's kind of what I thought going into relationships, like that there's kind of this versus going on always, like humming in the background.
Or that there's like some game where you have to like trick the other person into getting your way.
Exactly.
That is so prevalent on television.
And in magazines. Like, my parents gave me Cosmopolitan and like teen magazine subscriptions from when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And there is such mature content that like really skews your perspective on what a relationship can be.
Honestly,
and especially then, like, we're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Based on like our high school relationship versus our now relationship, I would much rather just if you wanted something to just tell me, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's how we have complete communication. It's not ever like, I'm going to trick you into thinking that you want this or that I need this, or you know what I mean? There's no secrets, and there's no like secret desires or secret, like, I don't know, worry that you're going to take offense for me asking for something, or that I'm going to take offense for you asking for something. And that is so much easier to live with. So yeah, I completely agree with that as well. You want to do another question?
Yeah.
We're going through these like very slowly, so we're gonna have to do another one of these relationship podcasts. This is interesting. This is sort of past, like, this is sort of an extension of what the last question was. Holly Webb 25 says, how do you deal with disagreements when around the kids without it affecting them?
I mean, I feel like everything in life affects kids.
Yes.
Or doesn't. You're like, wait, you don't even remember that? That was a big thing. And they're like, meow. Or at least that was like my childhood. I'm like, I don't remember that one, but that one struck me. You always wonder as a parent, like, what your kid's gonna take away as like the big childhood moment. I feel like we don't have a lot of disagreements, and I think because of that, we aren't like very good at it, like in front of our kids. Like, we don't make a huge deal about like
I feel like
ourselves.
I feel like if we have a disagreement, we talk about it not in front of them.
I mean, kind of. And then, but there are lots of times where we'll be like, well, this and this. And I think we bicker. Like,
Yeah.
we have a thing about us where we have a little bit of a bicker, and it's natural, and it's not like an issue that we have. But I feel like I've had moments with people that I'm like new at meeting or something, and we'll do our bicker thing, and then they'll be like, what just happened? And we're like, no, like we aren't having any issues. And I feel like probably our kids see stuff like that. But I think gosh, I'll always remember this one moment. This is the opposite of what's being asked probably. But I remember this one moment where Christopher and I thought we were in private. And Christopher was just saying to me, like, he was like something like how he loved me so much and he was so grateful for me. And like he was honestly just being like the sweetest man in the world. And like, that's us in private. I think a lot of the times, like he was just like kind of adoring me. And we realized that Bailey was like around the corner and had been listening the whole time. And we were like, hey, dude, so like you're listening. Like you should tell people when you're listening in on their conversations. And like, you know, it was that was a thing. But she just looked at us, and I just will always remember that she was like, you guys are so lucky. And it was like really cool because I feel like it was like the one time where I really saw our kids seeing our relationship, if that makes sense. But it meant a lot to me. And I think about it a lot. Just that like, I'm glad she was listening in on us, I guess. But I don't know. I hope that when we do have disagreements, our kids are just seeing people disagreeing and moving on from it. And like the fact that we love each other like wholly, like 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But that's what I meant by not handling it very well. Like, I feel like we do it more in front of them than probably we even realize. Because it's not that deep ever when we get in arguments. Like it's not like it was
hopefully
when
they're
we were
just
in high
seeing
school.
us like work things out more.
Right.
I feel
that's
like
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like it's positive. Like it's positive because they're seeing us communicate, I guess, maritally.
Jenna is asking, do you guys take turns when it comes to taking care of the kids, such as like one night someone feeds Luke while the other tends to the other kids?
We have too many kids to not be constantly taking turns.
Yeah. I feel like we take turns, but we're taking our turn at the same time, but with different kids.
100%. Yes.
And I would say like in terms of, I feel like in the mornings lately, like during quarantine, there have been these mornings where we kind of trade off who takes the like first hour or two.
We've been doing that like silently.
Just it was not even an arrangement. It was just like, well, I slept in yesterday, so I guess I'm getting up today.
For me, it's just some days lately I've been having energy. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to take on the day. And then some days I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Just cannot do anything but sleep for hours. And somehow that's like worked out where we've been on opposite schedules and we've been able to cover each other's backs and let each other like have a good rest.
I've honestly gone like, I slept in yesterday. I can't do it 2 days in a row. Like I have to get up and like take care of stuff.
I'd be okay with
I have to give her a turn.
Day. Yeah.
I have to let her sleep.
I also
that would be the only like turns thing that I would say we've been doing.
Well, I always nurse Luke like first thing in the morning. And I think Christopher, like, without even us talking about it, he kind of acknowledges that like I have that time that's reducing my sleep.
Yes.
And I think he will often try to help me with that if that's an issue for me that day, which it hasn't been lately. Like it hasn't always been an issue. I've been waking up pretty well, which is great.
With babies, I would say we have our own jobs, more like not jobs, but like we have tasks, roles that are different from each other. Like I can't nurse the infants.
I generally teach all of the reading because I'm a little bit controlling about it.
Yeah. And I teach the math because I enjoy math more.
Yeah.
But also, you'll nurse the baby, but I am always the one that wakes up, goes and gets them, sees if they need a diaper change, and brings them to you.
Yep.
So, and I feel like even though I'm probably getting a lot more sleep out of that deal than you are, it's like at least I'm contributing something because I can't nurse them.
I love this little thing about us. I'm assuming that we weren't necessarily doing it first and second child. Like I think it's something we had to come upon as we had children together and like learned our own strengths and weaknesses. But it's a question as a mom on like mom, like, you know, I have like mom websites that I look at, and I often see the dynamic of a struggling mom who's completely sleep deprived, just assuming the role of being completely sleep deprived because then a husband or the partner is attending work the next day in some capacity. And I know that's not always every family dynamic, but I just see it as a question a lot. And that's typically what I see it being. And a lot of people going like, yep, that's how it is. And then seeing a lot of resentment.
That's an extension of the game. That's the like, well, the mom mentality of like, well, my husband is going to work. And I'm not saying that that's how all families are. I'm just saying that I've seen this a lot. This is typical dynamic is like, well, he's going to work, so I have to do all the childbearing stuff and clean the house and everything. And the dad going, I am the one supporting all of you. Like I am the one working.
And that's not even always the case. Job. A lot of the times that mom also has a part-time job or a second job that is also happening.
And it's really like, speaking as someone who was in that role for a few years,
because I was a completely stay-at-home mom,
homeschooling our kids
after Parker was born, until he was about a year and a half.
And I would go to work and do the 9 to 5. It was more hours than that, but yeah, like doing that and then taking any extra odd jobs that I could to also fill the gaps. Because the job I had wasn't paying enough for everything.
And now, if you're not familiar with us, Christopher works from home and also helps like 100% with the kids and our home life. And I work from home more so than at that time I did. Like now I have more work-related tasks and I'm also doing the kids in the home life.
But it's easy to succumb to that idea of like, because you don't see what the other person's doing, you don't value it the way that you should.
Or there's a rule that's in your head that you're like, this is the rule, this is how it's going to be, so I'm not going to listen to the other person and see what their needs are and make sure that this is actually working for both of us.
I remember after producing Haters Back Off and having that job, which was, I thought, like the hardest job that someone could do. Like I was up constantly and then I was editing a vlog and then trying to spend any time that I could with the kids and that I had left over. And then going from that to then having the hiatus, the like between seasons, and taking on the role of like, you were pregnant and I was homeschooling the kids.
I was probably on bed rest.
You were on bed rest.
Yeah.
And I was taking care of the kids. And how
I ended up on bed rest then for about 10 weeks. So that was a moment.
That was so eye-opening to see what you go through every day. Was like, oh, what? Like, this is harder than what I was doing before. And I didn't give her any credit for that. And I think having that moment was like really helpful for our relationship as well as everything else. It's like, I really appreciated what you were doing at our house. And I don't know. I walked away from just that first day going like, I wish every husband of a stay-at-home mom or every mom of a stay-at-home dad could just do this for a day and realize like what goes into this. It's not just like you're playing with the kids all day. There's like, you gotta schedule things. You gotta make sure you're on top of that schedule. You have to keep the kids in line. And then
you have to do it even when you're exhausted.
And then to have an exhausted partner come back from work and expect more, or not be able to like pitch in, that it's got to be so hard.
Yeah. And I feel like even before then, you were a very like generous and present dad. Like you were always somebody who like helped in the middle of the night and things like that. That's just like who you are. But I agree. There was probably a moment around that time when things really clicked. Like, I don't want to give us all the credit, like, from the get-go, because I feel like we've learned a lot.
No, we grew with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's super important, I feel like, in any relationship, is realizing the person you are now is not going to be the same person you are 20 years from now. And you can choose to, like, grow together, or you can grow apart.
Yes.
And that can happen.
That's something I definitely I really want to talk about, because I always feel like people say like, well, so-and-so changed, so then this didn't work. And I can't, you can't enter into marriage assuming the person won't change, because you're going to change. That's the nature of being a human, is that you change. And I think deciding to change together and both people following through with that is really essential. And something that's just happened really naturally with us. And the thing I wanted to bring up about this, the night feedings from the very beginning.
Yeah, I forgot the question. Where are we?
Well, what I wanted to say that I love about us, and this is going to sound totally bizarre, I don't think I've ever seen this be the parenting answer. And it's not the parenting answer for everyone. It's the parenting answer for us, because of how each of us sleeps and responds to lack of sleep. And that is that I will nurse the babies every couple of hours throughout the night until they get closer to sleeping through the night, which just means that they're sleeping for longer stretches. It's not like a full adult human night sleep. But in that time, this is going to sound totally bizarre, so don't get too freaked out. But how we do it is Christopher gets up when the baby cries, or when it's time on our little clock to feed the baby. He gets up, gets the baby, brings the baby to me, and I nurse the baby in bed. Christopher falls asleep. And then after 30 minutes or whenever the nursing session is done, I nudge Christopher.
Sometimes it's more of a smack.
It's like a kick.
Because I think I'm a deep sleeper.
So he's a deep sleeper and he falls asleep easily. So I nudge Christopher. Christopher gets up, takes the baby, puts the baby back into the bed. I don't think other people do this. Nobody else would certainly really talk about it, because I feel like people assume that the person feeding the baby, and however they're going to feed the baby, is getting up and putting the baby back. But for us, that just didn't work, because I have a lot of trouble falling back to sleep once I stand up. So it's a personal thing. And I think that's what I'm saying. Figure out your own personal needs and work together as a team to make it work. And Christopher falls asleep in the middle of a sentence, my sentence. I'll be talking and then I'll be like, wait, are you
I feel like I've fallen asleep in the middle of my sentence a couple times as well.
He falls asleep instantly. It's amazing. I'm very jealous.
It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes I have nights where I just can't sleep, but yeah, when it's a night that I'm going to sleep, I'm going to sleep.
And in the middle of the night, so the baby will cry. He won't hear the baby. I'll hear the baby. I wake him up. He gets the baby, brings the baby to me, and I can go back to sleep after feeding the baby from this. And I am relatively refreshed. He doesn't take a whole session where he's feeding the baby throughout the night. Usually, I mean, it's probably happened on occasion, but it
happened more with Luke, which was actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically
different time, different things for different kids. It just depends. But this is our system.
Yeah.
And it works really well. It's the thing that has made it so that both of us get a decent amount of sleep and also healthy bonding with the baby. I think he probably doesn't always every time he gets up in the middle of the night, but there are a lot of great times that you've had in the middle of the night times.
That's a dad hack. I feel like that I've told other dads after having I think it was on our third kid, where I was just this little baby time only lasts a certain amount of time. I can't hold Bailey anymore the way I hold Luke. It would be weird. Luke is our 1-year-old. Bailey is our almost 13-year-old.
She's so tall.
And she's really tall. Anyway, so realizing that and reminding myself of that, because sometimes you're tired. You don't want to be rocking a baby. You want to be asleep. You are in the middle of something and you want to get back to that thing, and this baby needs you. Reveling in that time of I get to this is the moment. This is the moment where I get to hold you. There's going to be a time when I don't get this anymore, and I'm going to really enjoy it even though I'm tired. And that's helped me so much throughout life. Like being able to go like, oh, yes, I'm tired. How sweet is this? And it's just like that. And I tell new dads that all the time.
Yeah.
Because nobody talks about it. But like people will go like, well, it happens quick. Or like, you'll miss it when it's gone. But like, honestly, holding a baby is like this really special thing that it goes away. It goes away fast.
Well, and I'm just saying, like, everyone get yourself a partner like this guy right here. Like, he's just a complete dream. And
I will
amazing.
say that if you weren't as like honest with me, and if we hadn't grown up together and like and worked on these things together, like I don't feel like I wasn't this person when I was in high school when we first met.
You were pretty awesome for
but
high school,
I wasn't.
dude.
But I wasn't this guy. Like this guy's a lot like who I am now is much. I feel like much more in tune with what's going on than that kid was. You know what I mean? We grew up together, and I've like I don't know. Get yourself a Jessica.
That's all you do.
Anyway, we have.
I just saying like I just feel, as I said before, like this would be a giant flex because you're just amazing. You're just the dream guy. That's all.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna see if we have a word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna play a really fun game that might not be as mushy as the rest of the podcast, but maybe.
I'm excited.
We kind of mush it. We kind of make it mushy, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So today we are going to do a BuzzFeed quiz.
I love a quiz.
Ever wonder which movie couple matches your relationship? Take this quiz to find out.
Okay. Yes, I do wonder that.
So since we're doing relationships, I thought we would do this. Okay. So how did you two meet?
Wait, and I'm okay. Am I going to take this and then you're going to take one, or is this like, this is it?
This is it.
Okay.
So do you think we probably should agree on the answer together? Okay. How did you two meet? Through mutual friends, in school, on a vacation, or randomly?
So in school?
I think so. That's what I would say too. But through mutual
friends is like, hey, I know this person you should meet.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
Not PE friends. Okay. What are you most likely to do? Ready? What are you most likely to do? Slow dance, go to a party, travel, or sing karaoke?
Oh.
I feel like this is an easy one.
Sing karaoke?
When have we ever sung karaoke? Have you ever seen me sing karaoke? It's never happened.
Oh.
I was going to say travel.
Okay.
Because we've done that a lot.
But you've never like done that with me. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Travel.
Together. What are you most likely to do together? Slow dance, go to a party, travel, or sing karaoke. Yeah.
Okay. Travel.
Okay. Which word describes your significant other? Oh, this is difficult because
we're different people.
Yeah. But okay, let's just go through it. Let's go through it. Okay. Funny, spontaneous, brave, romantic.
Funny.
I was going to say funny too. So, okay, good.
We are the same people.
We're the same people. Yes. Which word describes you? Oh, come on now.
Yeah, this is weird.
I did not vet this
okay,
quiz. Okay, which word describes you?
People, so it's good.
Passionate, wild, tough, or sweet? Isn't passionate and wild
are the same thing? This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, we were thinking the same thing because I was like, wait a second there.
What describes you, do you think? Out of those, passionate, wild, tough, or sweet?
Passionate.
Interesting. Do you think I'm passionate?
No, sweet.
Yeah, I would say I'm sweet. You think you're passionate? Out of these? Okay.
I don't think I'm very sweet.
Let's go for passionate. I think you're sweet, but I also think you're passionate. I do think you're really passionate about stuff. We'll go with passionate. Okay.
Typical us.
If you and your significant other were in a movie, what would the genre be? Well, this is sort of like cheating on their part.
Like,
which movie do you think you would be best for? Which couple are you? Anyway, adventure, rom-com, romance, or drama?
Okay. I would say maybe rom-com because I'm always like falling and like spilling stuff on myself.
You are the actual rom-com hero of all time.
I am. I'm the girl that everyone's like, why are they writing that same character again? This is not okay.
You're like spilling stuff. And then you take off your glasses and all of a sudden your hair's flowing in the wind.
Oh, I don't know.
It does. It does. I've seen it. So rom-com? Yeah. Okay. What Disney couple are you two the most like? What? What?
We love a lazy quiz.
This is... Whoever wrote this.
I love it. It's my favorite.
You're a genius. What Disney couple are you two most like?
You were saying you're a genie.
No, that's Aladdin and Jasmine. It's not Aladdin and the Genie. It's
in the Aladdin live action or new action, whatever the new one was.
Yeah, the genie.
There was a genie.
It had a love interest.
Romance.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
that's not one of the options.
Oh, that's what I was thinking for us.
Are we more Ariel and Eric, Little Mermaid and Prince Eric?
So what's that? Like kind of like he couldn't even recognize her.
Yeah.
And then
he fell for another girl because she had kind of the same voice.
But like totally different hair.
Totally different hair.
And then like...
And definitely she also had legs.
She like gave up her livelihood for him.
Yeah. Belle and the Beast.
So like...
Total jerk.
Yeah. Fell for the wrong guy.
Total jerk. Then she changed him.
Yeah.
Not a great message, really.
Okay.
Aladdin and Jasmine. Scruffy street rat.
Okay.
Who wins
the
princess?
He pretended to be somebody else to impress her.
He did.
But that didn't.
Disney couples.
What am I telling you about the media?
Oh my goodness. All right.
But did she call him out on it or anything?
She did. She was a very strong female character. So was Belle in some ways too, though, and Ariel.
Well, except she gave up her leg, like her swimming.
Yeah, no. Okay, I take all of that back. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's unfortunate.
Or Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. So again, a thief.
Oh yeah,
kind of a vain guy.
I like that. I love the name Flynn and Rider.
Yeah,
but I didn't like that he was like kind of a troublemaker, and she was just.
Well, he had a dream of being surrounded by enormous piles of money.
But she was like so naive. Like she'd never seen anything else in the world. And she like comes upon this guy who I can't remember why, but was some form of criminal. And he wasn't it a trick? Like he was going to turn her in for some reason. Like he wanted to get money off of turning her in. I can't remember. He wasn't great though. I loved that movie.
It was a really great movie.
Yeah, I cry every time.
It was a really good one.
But I wasn't super into.
In the end, he did choose to do the right thing and basically sacrifice himself.
And there was a canoe moment.
Yes. But
yeah,
I don't know if that personifies us as much. So we have Ariel and Eric, Belle and the Beast, Aladdin and Jasmine, or Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. I feel like we look the most like Flynn Rider and Rapunzel.
I was leaning towards Aladdin and Jasmine, but I can't remember. I don't know why.
Relationship-wise, maybe.
I don't know what would you say is their relationship. I just can't really remember. And I saw the live action one.
He was a dreamer, street rat, wanted more out of life.
You're just like going street rat. Like that's all I can think in my head is that lyric.
And then Jasmine was this strong princess that wasn't gonna marry someone she wasn't in love with. And then there was a lot of trickery. Yeah, he wished to be a prince, but then the genie couldn't actually make him a prince. I think I figured it out. That didn't make any sense to me. Yes,
Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. You're Rapunzel. I'm Flynn Rider.
What are you trying to say?
I was like the troublemaker. I feel like, and you were like very innocent and sweet.
So we're reversing the roles,
but we're still that couple.
Okay. All right.
I mean, what do you think?
Sure. I don't know. I think you're painting yourself in a light that you shouldn't.
I just mean like you were the one that wasn't didn't get out of a tower much.
Same with Jasmine. Jasmine and Rapunzel are kind of the same in that regard.
I don't know. I need to refresh myself.
All right. So we're going to go with Flynn Rider and Rapunzel.
Yeah.
But
because I do like the names.
Swapping the genders.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We are Sally and Harry from When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
We're good with that?
I think I haven't seen it in like
now in this
30
particular
years.
movie, am I Meg Ryan or am I Billy Crystal?
I can't remember the plot, but I remember I liked the movie like in the 90s. Okay.
You both are best friends. You know each other so well that it's scary sometimes. You two are a match made in heaven. Columbia Pictures.
Won the
Yeah,
quiz.
that was good. I think that was a good quiz
we
win.
should watch that movie again because I can't really remember it. But I feel like they're funny.
Yeah.
Like I think he's like they've got banter.
Yeah, they do have banter.
And I feel like they travel. I think there's a car.
There was a question. One of the questions we didn't get to today was like, do you still like going on dates with each other? And I feel like, first off, yes, I do very much like going on a date with you. And I feel like when we go on a date, we become like those people where we're like bantering and laughing a lot more and like making jokes about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to say, I feel like I don't even like need to go on a date. Like it's kind of fun.
I'm just saying that it's fun.
Like to be able to have a conversation like, in full for like a solid hour or like see a movie.
Yeah.
It feels kind of wild.
I feel like we go see a movie and then we have dinner afterward and we like talk about the movie and make fun of it. And it's like good times.
But more so, we usually end up just grocery shopping.
That's fun too. All right. It is that time again where we have to say goodbye. And I'm sure there's lots of things that we didn't talk about today. So you can submit your questions again using the hashtag ltawwlt. That's ltawwlt. Or let's...
No, ltawwlt.
What did I say?
At. It's okay. It's hard.
The letters
Sorry,
of the
guys.
beginnings of let's talk about what we learned today. So just think about that when you're typing it out. You can also just tag us on Twitter. It's Ballinger Mom and Ballinger Family, right? You're Ballinger Mom on Twitter, right? You have different names, different places.
I was trying to figure out if our name was long enough to be considered a haiku. It is not.
Oh, sorry.
But that would be pretty cool.
Really messed that one up.
Yeah, I'm Ballinger Mom on Twitter and Jessica Ballinger on Instagram. And I don't know, we're just a big mess of various names on various social platforms. But we have some really exciting news because we have a special guest next week.
Yes, we
do.
Who
was actually clamoring to be on tonight's episode, but we told her that she needed to go to sleep because it's pretty late right now. But Bailey will be our guest for our podcast next week, and she's really, really, really excited. And I'm guessing she'll want to talk about books, which I'm here for.
Okay. So if you have questions about books or book recommendations
or Hamilton, she'll probably be talking about
Hamilton.
Books and Hamilton the whole time, and that's cool. So, yeah. But I know she's really excited to do the podcast, and Parker has been begging, I think, every day to come back and do more podcasts. So I'm sure
we only have 3 microphones.
We only have 3 microphones.
We have to do one kid at a time. And
but our kids are funny. They are all vying for their podcast time.
Also, if you are listening to this the day that it came out, tomorrow, which is Friday, we are returning to our vlogs. So we will have a new vlog posted on Ballinger Family on YouTube tomorrow. Be sure to check that out. It's going to be a really fun week. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say before we?
It's going to be a fun week because Luke's birthday.
Is that this week?
I think it's the 16th, and it's Friday. So I guess it'll be after the next podcast.
Yeah, it'll be after the next podcast. But it'll still be a fun week.
We'll be planning for it.
We will be planning for it, getting ready for it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening today. I'm Chris. This is Jessica. You have just listened to Let's Talk About What We Learned Today, the podcast, episode 3.
Woo! We're doing it.
Have an excellent week. Goodbye.